Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your co-host, Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC 250, Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer. And Shaq, it's going down this Saturday in Las Vegas. Amanda Nunes looking further cement her legacy as the best women's fighter of all time.
Yeah, I mean, the lady goat of our sport, man. I mean, this girl's unstoppable. She's out here knocking Cyborg out in the first round. You know, 50-45ing Durandamy with a lot of takedowns there, man. She's the goat of our sport. Beat Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey. I mean, the list goes on and on. So Felicia Spencer better be ready. But Felicia's a tough girl, man. And hey, she made it to the main event, so props to her.
You know, if you would have told me a year ago that Felicia Spencer was going to fight for a world title, I would have said you're crazy. But here we are. And not only is she fighting for a world title, she has a chance to make MMA history if she can go out there and dethrone the great Amanda Nunes. And the odds are definitely not in her favor. But again, fights are not contested on paper, so I cannot wait to see how that plays out. But man, the co-main event and the featured bout. Obviously, we got the return of Cody Garbrandt. He's taking on ATL's own Raphael Assuncao. But I think the fight that most people are excited about is the potential title eliminator between Aljamain Sterling and Cory Sandhagen. I have a feeling the winner of that fight is going to face off with Peter Yan or Jose Aldo later this year.
Yeah, that kind of is the people's main event. That is the number one contender fight. Cory Sandhagen, what is it, only 4 fights in the UFC? And I mean, now he's in a number one contender match. I think we knew from day one that this dude was the real deal. And Sterling, man, this guy, he's had to bounce back from a lot of embarrassing losses, man. I give him props. He's definitely gotten a lot better as a fighter. And, you know, he's been saying that he wants his title shot. So here it is right here on the table. So he's coming off a little injury. But, man, the way he's been looking lately, beat Stamann, beat Johns, beat Pedro Munoz, and Jimmy Rivera, man. The guy, he's definitely improved, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be no debate that the winner is going to go out there and get a title shot, so I'm very excited about that. And Shaq, before we get down to business, just got to let them know to go to bestfightpicks.com to get our plays. Last week, coming off a perfect clean sweep, I went 3-0, you went 4-0. And now it's time to repeat history, man. They can use our promo codes 2020 to save 20% off the VIPs. They can use my promo code DAN25 to save 25% off any of my packages. Or they can use the promo code SHAQ50 to save 50% off your plays at bestfightpicks.com. Well, Shaq, let's get right down to business, because first up, in an 150-pound catchweight bout, we got the return of Evan Dunham. He's 18-8. And Herbert the Blaze Burns is 10-2. Currently, they got Herbert Burns minus 225. The comeback on Evan Dunham is plus 185. And Shaq, I was kind of surprised to see that Evan Dunham's actually making his return, because when he retired, I actually went back and read his interview about what he said back in 2018. And he said, my body let me know, based off my last couple results, that I'm doing the right thing stepping away. I'm doing what's best for me, and I have zero intentions on returning. Well, fast forward to 2020, and sounds like he's coming back for more, man. And it's interesting because, I know the fans remember the classic wars Evan Dunham gave us, the TJ Grant fight, the Rafael Dos Anjos fight, even most recently the Beneil Dariush fight. How can you not love Evan Dunham? Such a true warrior. The thing is, man, he retired for a reason, and obviously, we're going to talk about how he doesn't take the best body shot, wasn't taking the best chin shots either, but now dropping an additional 5 pounds, I'm curious to see how he responds to what Herbert Burns is going to dish out, because this kid Herbert, look, obviously we all know he's Gilbert's brother, and, Gilbert just came off that domination, that destruction of Tyron Woodley, but if you never told me that this was Gilbert Durinho's brother, you never told me he was Brazilian, and I just watched him fight, I think this guy's like a D1 wrestler, man, because you see the entries this kid has. His wrestling is serious. Then you take it a step further, look at the jiu-jitsu. I mean, he's been a black belt over 10 years, and now he's adding some serious power to his striking arsenal. As you saw, he went out there and knocked out the former M1 champion, Nate Landwehr. So I think Herbert Burns has a lot of potential. He's been coming a long way. He's been developing, and he's been fighting the right guys to get to this point. I mean, on the regional scene, finished Luis Gomez in the first round. I mean, that's a guy that has a win over Sodiq Yusuff. Obviously went on Contender Series, got that first round sub, and most recently finished Nate Landwehr in the first round. So I think Herbert Burns is riding high off momentum. And, a couple years back, if they would have ran it, I would have went with Evan Dunham. But at this stage of their career, I think that Herbert Burns has caught up to where he can go out there and beat a serious vet like Evan Dunham. And what I like about Burns, obviously I mentioned the entries and, his submission ability, but how about the stand-up, man? He comes out there with his hands high, looks to fire to the body. He's punching with both hands now, as Coach Edmond would say. I like what I see from Herbert Burns. I think he's got a lot of potential, and I think Saturday night he's going to finish Evan Dunham, Shaq.
Yeah, man, I think you pretty much hit it. Evan Dunham, he retired. Look at that Beneil Dariush fight. In that first round, he took a lot of damage, and then he was able to regroup and win the next 2 rounds on the scorecards on 2 cards. And man, he's always been a guy that, in his prime, he was durable, he was tough, but when the durability goes away, when he's getting folded up to body shots by OAM after the Dariush fight, and then Trinaldo, right after that, man. Look, he retired for a reason. I'm assuming he probably needed some, where else can he make a six-figure payday, So I think this is probably what it was, something similar to Wyman, not as much as of like a layoff, but he retired and now he's coming back to fight the young up and comers. And Herbert Burns, man, we already know about his jiu-jitsu. Yeah, we know he's Gilbert's little bro, but the power, man, he's just like his brother, kind of, where Gilbert was when he was younger, a little raw, but a lot of power, a lot of potential. I see Herbert Burns, at some point getting a body shot. You got to know Henry Hoof's going to try to attack that small, weak body. OAM folded him up with a knee to the body and punches right after that. So, and Trinaldo fight, it was kind of, I don't want to say 50-50. Trinaldo seemed to be landing the harder shots, but just one little straight or was it a knee to the body and he went down? So, I see Herbert Burns getting in that clinch, getting a possible knee and knocking Evan Dunham out. So, yeah.
One thing I want to say about the Trinaldo fight is the reason it went into the second round is actually Dunham was kind of running away from Trinaldo the entire time, which I don't blame him. When you get knocked out by OAM in under a minute, that means that there's a problem, especially when Evan Dunham, a guy that's been known for his durability, and OAM, a guy that's never been known for harming anything, when that's happening, that's when you know it's time to wrap things up. And the Trinaldo fight was further evidence. So let's see what happens Saturday night. Now, next up in the 205-pound division, we got a matchup between Alonzo Menifield, he's 9-0, and Devin Clark is 11-4. Currently, they got Alonzo Menifield -220. The comeback on Devin Clark is +180. Well, Shaq, I watched Alonzo Menifield's entire career from when he was 0-0 to now as a 9-0 pro, and I gotta say, man, there's a lot of myths surrounding this guy Alonzo Menifield. One of those myths is that he can't grapple, and I'm here to say that is complete bullshit, because obviously when someone has the kind of power and athleticism that Alonzo Menifield has, all of his opponents, they don't want to stand and bang with him. They want to take him down. They want to clinch him against the fence. And when I say that Alonzo Menifield has serious instincts to go for those underhooks, I mean it. And then you look at that fight against Daniel Jolly on Contender Series when he was only 3-0. And I know people are going to reference that a lot because he got taken down, and we got to see what he looks like off his back. Well, firstly, prior to the takedown, he was busting up Daniel Jolly to a point where, he broke the guy's orbital. The guy couldn't even answer the bell between rounds. But when he got taken down, now, he didn't get back up. So this is one thing we got to mention. But on the flip side, he didn't get his guard passed. He wasn't panicking or anything like that. He was just relaxing, until the ref came in, let them back up, and then he got back to work. And so after that fight, Dana didn't sign him off the bat, because you got to remember, he was only 3-0. And it's funny because last week, people were talking all this shit about Jamal Hill, and they were referencing fights from back when he was 3-0. When he went 5 rounds with Daquan Towns, and he fought some jobber that took his back and all these things. When these guys are have less than 5 fights or less than 10 fights, they're gonna make these huge leaps every single time we see him. So Dana said, hey, I like this kid Menifield, but go back to the regional scene, get a little more experience, and we'll bring you back. And that's exactly what he did. And when I tell you that he worked on all areas of his game, he goes to the regional scene, and now he's out there winning fights by submission, Shaq. He's out there winning fights by ground and pound. So he's really been exploring all areas of the game, and the guy is such a physical presence. Kind of reminds me of an American Ngannou a little bit for 205 pounds. But look, this is the biggest step up in his career. And the thing with Devin Clark is he's very athletic. He's definitely got a lot of tools. He's physical. It's just the mentality is where I kind of have the issue with Devin Clark. He doesn't, respond well to adversity at all. I mean, any stand-up exchange that happens, even against Daquan Townsend, he was running away for his life. But if he can come out here and, hump Alonzo's leg for 2 of the 3 rounds, then yeah, he has a path to victory. But I just don't see how he overcomes some of these shots, man. And not to mention, it's not going to be such a simple task to take down Alonzo because, like those underhooks I was referring to, his instinct for the underhooks is second to none. So, look, I think it's going to be a first-round knockout for Alonzo Menifield. Oddsmakers actually open at -330 here. All the publics bet on Devin Clark in this spot. And I understand why they want to fade Alonzo Menifield, but I don't think this is the spot. I think Alonzo's going to come out here and knock this guy out, Shaq.
Yeah, this is a good test for Menifield, man, because these 2 fights he's been kind of fighting. Craig's tough, but he's not really known for his striking, and Moreira, who's a complete can. So I'm glad to see this fight. Clark, he's been in there with some decent guys like Ratchik, and he just fought Alonzo's teammate Ryan Spann. So Coach Safe's already got the game plan for this guy. Yeah, man, Menifield, all I've seen is just vicious power. He plants his feet. He's very plotty, but the dude swings haymakers, man. And we've seen what's happened with Devin Clark. He gets real spastic in there. He starts turning his back. He ends up in these chokes all the time. I know you remember that one from the Blachowicz fight, and even the Ratchik fight. When you think about it, he dropped Ratchik, but then he goes out unconscious to a spinning back fist. Look, Ratchik is a big dude, but so is Menifield. Yeah, I think Menifield at some point will knock him out. I just don't think that he's probably faced a guy with, somewhat equal size and power into him. But Clark I don't see why he would he hasn't shown me anything. Like you said, the Daquan Townsend fight, he's still in there running away and getting squeamish when he gets close, man. It's just it's the same thing. Look, he's a powerful guy. I just don't. I think Menifield, I think Safe and them will close the distance and touch this guy's chin. Ryan kind of walked him down, backed him up the entire time, and then eventually hurt him with a big left hook, and he started to look for his way out. So I see the same thing happening as well.
Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Jussier Formiga. He's 23-7, and Alex Perez is 23-5. Currently, they got Alex Perez -130. The comeback on Jussier Formiga is +110. Well, Shaq, oddsmakers initially opened this -130 Formiga, +110 Perez, but now the line's completely flipped. Alex Perez is the favorite. Which way you going for this one?
Yeah, man, this is an interesting fight because, Jussier Formiga's always been number 1, number 2 in the world, beating Davison, God of War, Figueiredo, Sergio Pettis. Resume-wise, man, he blows Alex Perez's resume out the water. It's just, Alex Perez, he's an up-and-comer, very talented. He likes to close off the cage. He hits very hard. He's got very good grappling as well. We haven't really seen his grappling tested against a black belt of this caliber. The thing with Jussier Formiga, man, is just is his head still in it? The Joseph Benavidez fight, they both got knocked out by Benavidez. And, then he followed that up in the Moreno fight. And, Moreno is definitely number 1 contender now. But, man, I just saw a lack of spirit, man. He's kind of showing signs of the old Brazilian, and he's necessarily not known for his knockout power, which I feel is more of a threat to Alex Perez. He's a little bit chinny, but now he's fighting a grappler. I haven't seen Perez's jiu-jitsu tested on this level, but I think Perez is more hungry. I think he's more aggressive. I think he moves forward. He's been running through these Espinosas and these De La Rosas. I guess he's getting another shot at the top 5. This is the big deal in the flyweight division. If he can get this win, man, that'll be a huge win for him. I think he's super talented, man. I think he's gonna walk Formiga down and be the bully here, man. I know he's got to stuff that takedown, but I think this is a good matchup. I don't think he's gotta have to worry about getting knocked out in this fight. Formiga, I just see a lack of spirit, so I'm gonna go with Perez by decision.
This is a really interesting fight because obviously the resumes don't even compare. I mean, when you talk about a guy like Formiga, obviously last year he beat the champion Davison Figueiredo, but 10 years ago in 2010 he beat Pantoja. So what I'm trying to say is he's been beating the top level guys throughout the last decade. He's been a perennial top 5 guy his entire career. I mean, I remember back when he was like fighting Ian McCall and they considered Jussier his name used to be, he used to go by Jussier da Silva before they called him Formiga, which means the fire ant in Portuguese. But yeah, back when he was Jussier da Silva, they considered him to be the number 1 flyweight on planet Earth. So it's pretty amazing to see 10 years later, he's still in the top 5. But now, you know, for him being a top 5 gatekeeper, certain guys are going to pass that test. And I got to say, going back and watching that Brandon Moreno fight, dude, Brandon Moreno looked fucking amazing. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if Brandon Moreno challenges for a UFC title within a year. Like, I was like, holy shit. Like, I didn't remember how damn good he looked. But yeah, that was super impressive. As far as Perez, you know, he's definitely a physical guy. He's an experienced guy. He's paid his dues. It's just the level of competition. I mean, he's handled them all accordingly, but like, let's be realistic about it. Carl's John de Thomas, Eric Shelton, Mark De La Rosa. The best guy on the list is Jordan Espinoza. So all guys with losing records. I mean, unless you want to say Jose Shorty Torres, who's no longer with the company, he was super hyped up at the time. But it's like this is a different level of competition. And the last time he stepped up, you remember what happened. Now, as far as this matchup is concerned, because it's a different stylistic fight, you know, I'm just curious to see what happens if he takes Formiga down. You know, is he going to just kind of lay in his guard and kind of stall him out a little bit, which I think would be the right thing to do? Or is he going to kind of take risks, which will open up, you know, the possibility of Formiga sweeping him or taking his back along the way? And also, I think Formiga's stand-up is a little underrated too, because even though he's very low volume, the dude's got some good counters, you know, from back in his Novo and Yao game. He's got that ATT calf kick game, and he's able to slow his opponent's output down as well. So I'm actually kind of leaning with the odds makers that they slightly edged Formiga in this one. I'm slightly edging him as well. You know, it's not going to surprise me to see the young gun come out here and beat him, but I kind of think Formiga is the more skilled guy, so I'm going to roll with him here. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Charles Byrd, he's 10-6, and Maki Coconut Bombs Pitolo is 12-5. Currently, they got Charles Byrd -170. The comeback on Maki Pitolo is +150. Shaq, it's interesting because Maki Pitolo is undefeated at 185 pounds. But at 170, he's taken some of the worst losses we've ever seen. Like, when you want to, man, when you talk about devastating losses, you look at all of Maki Pitolo's KO losses. But at 185, he's done his thing. With Charles Byrd, you know, he's the captain at Fortis MMA, but, you know, he's kind of getting up there in age. I know he doesn't like to, I know he probably wouldn't like to hear this, but he's kind of old, man. You know, he turns 37 later this year. He's listed at 5'10". Between you and me, he's 5'8". I mean, look, Charles Byrd's the more skilled guy, but the thing is, you think the Hawaiian warrior can come out here and knock him out anyways?
Yeah, this is a tough fight to call because Maki Pitolo pulled one of the more bigger stunts of 2019 in that fight against Callan Potter. I mean, that was ugly, but like you said, it seems like he's better at 185s than he is at 170. Charles Byrd, like you said, he's on the tail end of his career. I haven't been impressed with Byrd. I haven't been impressed with either guy, man. I think Bird's the better athlete, stronger, powerful. But Maki Pitolo might be better in the late rounds if this gets stretched out. You know, Byrd, we saw in that Stewart fight, man, he kind of blew himself out and then, went down viciously to an elbow. And then Maki Pitolo, we saw him swarm that guy on Contender Series, Justin Sumter. He's got a couple other good wins on the local scene too, but we've also seen him pull massive stunts like that Cassius Clay fight on the local scene in which he got knocked out unconscious. Then the Callan Potter fight, but man, maybe he's a weight cutting victim, man. It's a tough fight. From a betting perspective, this is a straight pass fight for me, man. It's either dog or pass. No way in hell I'm laying -175 on Charles Byrd at his age. And he's just very basic in his skill set too, man. It took him 2 times to get that contract on the Contender Series as well. He's just an average. He's a guy that you could be seeing fight. Both of these guys are guys that you could be seeing fighting on the local scene, man. But I'll go with Charles Byrd, man. I think he'll probably edge out a decision. But man, I'm not confident in that at all.
Yeah, look, I kind of feel the same way just in terms of I would not put my money behind a minus 170 on Charles Byrd. I'll tell you that right now. And Maki Pitolo, I like the idea of, getting plus 150 against Byrd. It's just when you go and you watch the tape on Pitolo, it's like, oh my God, Maki, like, he's definitely a Hawaiian warrior. He's kill or be killed. I love his fighting style as a fan. I just can't trust him with my money. But who knows? Maybe he comes out here and keeps his undefeated, record at 185 pounds. Because at 170, man, holy shit, that Callan Potter fight was extremely alarming. But again, 15 pounds of water in your body and brain makes a world of difference. So I'm still leaning Charles Byrd because I think he's the far more skilled fighter. I think he comes from a better camp. But nothing would surprise me in this one, Shaq. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Cody Stamann. He's 18-2. And Brian Kelleher is 21-10. Currently, they got Cody Stamann minus 260. The comeback on Brian Kelleher is plus 220. I mean, look, Shaq, before we say anything else, just, want to send our condolences to Cody Stamann. Friend of the show, is going through a lot of personal stuff right now. And, we're sending you all our positive energy, man. Hope you get through this time. But as far as this matchup is concerned, Shaq, look, Cody Stamann's one of the most disciplined guys at 135 pounds, one of the most underrated guys at 135 pounds. That 18-2 record speaks for itself. In my opinion, he handed Song Yadong his first loss. And Brian Kelleher, what can we say? I mean, after the Lineker and Montel Jackson fights, we kind of thought he was on his way out, but then you put him in there with a rookie, and he'll tap him out or knock him out. He welcomed those two guys to the UFC accordingly, so now he gets to step up. You think he rises to the occasion?
Yeah, man. I'm a fan of both guys. I'm a big fan of Cody Stamann. Been saying that this guy would be ranked from his UFC debut, and he definitely made the rankings. Condolences to him and his family, man. It's such a brave thing that he's doing fighting, man. And Kelleher, he's hot right now. He like you said, after those two losses, he showed the two contender series guys. But let's just be honest here; those two contender series guys are nowhere near the level of Cody Stamann. Hunter Azor, man, he's real slow. He definitely hits very hard, but Kelleher, a vet like that, I feel like he can take those guys out. But Kelleher's very confident right now. He's already fought in the arena with no fans. He's somewhat used to this. And Cody Stamann, like you said, a lot of people think he handed Song Yadong his first loss. I mean, he took him down a lot of times, and I just think Cody Stamann doesn't get a lot of enough credit, just because he doesn't have he's not going to come out here and get the vicious knockout or the submission. He's a little smaller, a little shorter, and he just likes to win rounds and pick guys apart and do his job that way. I think he's only got like 5 or 6 knockouts, but this guy does his job, man. He's fundamentally sound. His blast doubles are really good, man. He can turn the corner. His angle, I mean, he took Song Yadong down at least 5 times from what I remember. This guy he's very smart in the cage. He's very aware, and Kelleher's a guy that likes to move forward, put pressure on guys, and capitalize on them gassing out. But Cody Stamann, I just don't see that happening to him. I don't think Kelleher has the level of wrestling. He does have a very good guillotine, so Cody's got to be careful of that. But I honestly think Cody could blast double him at any time, point him up on the outside, and win a decision. I don't, from a betting perspective, this line opened up like minus 270 or minus 260 or something. And so I think that's about accurate. But at the same time, he probably is going to minus 285. So it's going to go to decision most likely. So you are going to have to go through 15 minutes. But I think Cody Stamann gets the victory here, 30-27.
Yeah, one thing about Kelleher is he's a very opportunistic guy. You shoot on a sloppy takedown, leave your neck exposed. He will capitalize. You start to gas out on the guy, you fight with your hands down. He can knock people out too. It's just Cody Stamann so disciplined in there. He knows his distance perfectly, and he doesn't take any unnecessary risks. And as long as he sticks to that disciplined style that he's had throughout his entire career, he should come out here and win this fight, man. And it's a thing where it's like, I've been so impressed with this guy for different reasons. Like the Duquesnoy fight, he somewhat took off 7 minutes of that fight to start with, still got a 30-27. Goes out there against Song Yadong. I'm thinking, man, these pocket exchanges, look out for the power of Song Yadong. Cody walks out of that fight without a scratch on his face. So I'm done sleeping on this kid, Cody Stamann. Not that I'm out here picking against him on the reg or anything like that. I'm just saying he needs to earn people's respect. And I know he had the setback to Sterling, but look at the position Sterling's in. It's just a different level of competition. So I'm very impressed with both guys, but I think Saturday night's going to belong to Cody Stamann, Shaq. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Ian Heinisch, he's 13-3, and Gerald Meerschaert is 31-12. Currently, they got Ian Heinisch minus 135. The comeback on Gerald Meerschaert is plus 115. Shaq, man, this is a tough fight to call, man, for a lot of reasons. But before I break it down, I want to kind of admit that capping Gerald Meerschaert fights is really tough for me because it's like when I watch him on tape, I'm like, man, he's slow, he's unathletic. I say it every fucking time, but then he goes out there and wins anyways, man. What are you about to say?
Yeah, man. I always pick his fights wrong, except like Hermanson and stuff. But like, other than that, man, I can't pick his fights for shit.
Yeah, no, exactly, man. And like, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so I start the tape on Heinisch, and I'm like, oh shit, we might have overrated Heinisch from the jump, right? Like,
yeah, I bet on Omari his last fight, man. I said, Heinisch was a fraud the entire time,
It's funny because we actually bet on Heinisch to beat Antonio Carlos Jr. at plus 175 odds, and he came through there. But man, these are different matchups, and this is interesting because Gerald Meerschaert's one of those vets that you start making sloppy mistakes on a guy like that, he can snatch up the neck, he can knock guys out with body kicks, hurt Deron Wynn with punches, and obviously he's a jiu-jitsu black belt. You just kind of lacks in the athleticism department, but he makes up for it with his veteran savvy. And, his technique is pretty damn good too. It's just the athleticism and the speed, But the thing with Heinisch is he's not the most polished guy, but he kind of wills himself to these wins. The things I like about him is, on the feet, it's not the prettiest thing, but, he has a lot of feints. He's got good cardio for the most part. I know he gassed out really bad against Brunson. I think that might have been an adrenaline dump. The first 10 seconds, you hit the guy with a high kick. You think the fight's about to be over, and then you got to grapple for the next 10 minutes. I feel like that might have gassed him out. The reason I say that his cardio is good is because in the Carlos Jr. and the Cesar Ferreira fight, even the Omari fights, he was turning up in that third round. So it was really only the Brunson fight where he gassed bad. And with Meerschaert, man, it's just hard to get a read on him, man. So since I kind of feel like this is a 50-50 fight, I'm going to lean towards Meerschaert because the dog odds are on him, but I could realistically see it going either way, Shaq.
Yeah, it's a close fight. I think, Ian Heinisch, at this point, we know that he wasn't really top 15. He had a couple good wins over two solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts, but when he got in there with Brunson and Omari Akhmedov, man, they taught him a lesson for sure. I think Heinisch is tough. Like you said, he wills himself. That's his best attribute. His best attribute is an intangible that, will only be there on certain nights. Skill-wise, I think his stand-up is average. He's got good footwork, better footwork than Meerschaert for sure. But boxing wise, I actually think Meerschaert actually beat Eric Anders. I thought that decision should have went to him. I think he's got underrated boxing as well. Like you said, he's finished people with body kicks, and I think if he gets a submission, he'll have the most submissions in middleweight history, if I'm not mistaken. So Meerschaert's very well rounded. Heinisch, probably is the guy that's so willing to get a little bit more dirty, maybe shoot a few more takedowns to try to steal on points. He is a grimy guy. I like, at least the one thing I'll say about Ian, I like how he didn't quit against Omari in that third round, because the first two rounds, man, he got straight up grown man by a Russian, and he didn't quit, man. A lot of dudes would have just folded it in and just accepted it. So I will give him props. So I'm actually going to take Ian Heinisch to edge out a close decision, but man, this guy's not as good as we all thought before. So from a betting perspective, laying slight chalk on him, I think is a little sketchy, just because Meerschaert's got a history of sneaking up on guys. But I'll take Ian Heinisch by split decision.
Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Chase Hooper, he's 9-0, and Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres is 15-12. Currently, they got Chase Hooper minus 185. The comeback on Alex Caceres is plus 160. Now, firstly, Shaq, odds makers actually opened this a pick 'em with a slight lean on Caceres. So Vegas isn't sold on Chase Hooper, and I mean, neither am I, but at the same time, we do know what the UFC is trying to do here, and we also know the fact that Bruce Leroy's been tapped out more than once, Shaq. And when I say I'm not sold on Chase Hooper, let me explain what I mean, because I actually think his jiu-jitsu is very, very slick, and I even called you after he beat Luis Gomez on the regional scene. I was like, dude, you have to see what the fuck this kid just did to Luis Gomez. I mean, the sweep, the dexterity of his legs on the mat. And then when he gets on top of you, fights seem to be over shortly after. It's just the one time he went the distance, and it was with another 500 fighter, just like Bruce Leroy. It was a draw. Now, granted, he was 18 years old at the time, and these young kids are going to be making big improvements every single time, but his striking defense is very, very suspect. I mean, do you think Bruce Leroy can capitalize on that over a 3-round duration? Because, I mean, we're talking about a guy that went 5 with Yair in altitude, but this is a different matchup.
Yeah, this is a tough one, man, because I'm not sold on Chase Hooper either, except his jiu-jitsu and his top game. You know, his jiu-jitsu and his top game, and like you said, Bruce Leroy has been submitted several times. But man, on the feet, it could possibly be a mismatch if they get stood up. If they stand on the feet for like any significant amount of time, like a minute, a minute tops, like Chase Hooper's probably getting dropped. I mean, let's just be honest here. Alex Caceres, he's still got that left hand. He can still grind out these wins against Ocho Peterson and Martin Bravo. He's very experienced. You remember when he went to split with Wang Guan? I don't know what happened to Wang Guan, by the way, man. That guy disappeared. But he's very experienced, like you said.
My boy Wang Guan's royalty down there. He don't need this shit.
But he's definitely way more experienced. And Hooper's fight with Tamor, I mean, Tamor is like bottom dweller. I consider Caceres, like mid-pack, like, just fun fighter. Man, betting perspective is dog or pass for me. I could see Chase Hooper getting knocked out stiff if they stay in the middle for like a minute, 2 minutes tops. But at the same time, if he gets on top of Alex Caceres, he's probably going to get the submission. The kid's got a legitimate ground game. I just don't know how necessarily he's going to get it, man. Tamor is like a complete idiot. Tamor is like, man, that guy is something else. Did he get cut? Yeah, it probably did. But like, I'll pick Hooper, but from a betting perspective, Caceres or pass for me.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the guys that have submitted Caceres, I mean, there's no shame in losing to Crone Gracie, serious black belt. And even like Uriah Faber back in the day. I guess maybe the Jason Knight one, even though he was riding high off momentum back then, that's back when, people were thinking this guy was going to be a contender right before he fought Lamas. So it's a tough one. I really don't like the striking defense of Chase Hooper, and I will be looking to fade him soon. I'm just not convinced this is the spot. So I will say that it might be sketchy, but somewhere along the way, he's probably going to find this submission. So I'm going to go with Chase Hooper here via submission. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Sean O'Malley, he's 11-0, and the former WEC champion, Eddie Wineland, is 24-13. Currently, they got Sean O'Malley minus 485. The comeback on Eddie Wineland is plus 385. Shaq, this is a hell of a fight. This is the first real fight that Sean O'Malley's had. I mean, no disrespect to my boy Tecco. I like him, but I'm just saying, like, this ain't Terrion Ware or Andre Sukumtut no more. And I know Eddie's seen better days, but, like, as long as Eddie's conscious, he's going to be fighting for real. So this might actually be a test for O'Malley in a sense. Like I'm saying, there's a knockout threat here. You know what I mean? Like, if O'Malley doesn't show up, if O'Malley hasn't been training, he could get knocked out in this fight. Eddie Wineland does hit hard, and he's been proven for many, many years. But that being said, there's some stylistic advantages for O'Malley here. And I'm not even talking about the youth, the age gap, the height, all that stuff. I'm talking about the sole fact that Eddie Wineland fights with his hands down and his chin up. And you do that against a guy like O'Malley, who prides himself on his counters and on his accuracy, his speed. Just seems like a bad idea to me. I recall back in the day when I cashed that plus 750 on Johnny Eduardo to beat Eddie Wineland, and the reason I bet him was just because it's like a Nova União striker versus a guy that keeps his hands down and his chin up. Now, while Sean O'Malley doesn't have that Nova União style, he's got more of that new school, kind of took a lot of influence from Conor McGregor, loves those pull counters, loves throwing that straight left. I just feel like somewhere along the way, Sean O'Malley's going to knock him out, and I think probably in the first round, Shaq.
Yeah, Eddie Wineland, I know he ain't scared of O'Malley. I know he's going to go in there and fight him like a man. It's just, can he take that damage anymore? Look at his fights with Perez, Turbo Perez, his nose is getting bloodied up. He can't take that damage. Even the pop-up fight, man, his ribs were clenching up a couple times. He wobbled a couple times in that fight as well. He was able to get the vicious knockout, but Eddie's been on the decline for a while. But we love him, man. He brings, he's gonna fight you. You know what I'm saying? And O'Malley, man, this kid's one of the most creative strikers in the UFC. Like you said, those counters, that pull game, man. That guy, those slipping rips. I know you remember what he did at the Contender Series show. I mean, Dana White said that he had the entire arena on fire. I mean, he said the ground was like shaking and shit when he was doing that. Like people were going crazy when he did that. So, I think O'Malley's actually the real deal, man. I think like more people want to fade him and think he's not all that, but I think his striking skills are super legit. And he's training at the lab with guys like Casey Kinney and Bautista. Like the dude trains every day, man. What's the other guy's name? Kyler Phillips. Like he's got good guys around him. He's got a good coach. And I think he's going to knock out Eddie Wineland in the first round, man. I think it's going to get vicious, too. His performance against Tecco, that was kind of flawless. I mean, Tecco, I know Tecco's not known for his chin, but I mean, he couldn't even go. I mean, that was like, he didn't even get touched. So, I think O'Malley's the real deal, and I think he'll knock out Eddie.
Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Neil Magny, he's 22-7, and Anthony Rocco Martin is 17-5. Currently, they got Neil Magny minus 135. The comeback on Anthony Rocco Martin is plus 115. Well, Shaq, I got to ask you something straight up because, look, we know Anthony Rocco Martin's been making improvements. Now, is Neil Magny back, or did Li Jingliang pull one of the biggest stunts that we've seen in recent memory, only landing 16 strikes in the 15 minutes he had with Neil Magny that night?
Yeah, man, I think we're gonna find out this weekend, man. I just know that I've been super high on Rocco for a while, man. His fight with Ramazan Ameev was very impressive. He did that down there in Moscow. This guy, he's well rounded, man. He's kind of reminding me of like I don't want to say a poor man's version, but like kind of like Qatar. He's sticking to the boxing. He likes to swing that right hand. And, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He didn't get submitted by Damian Maia. And, Magny, yeah, he looked good against Li Jingliang, but man, Li Jingliang was tired after the first tie-up, man. I don't know what was going on. Then he started shooting takedowns. Rocco Martin won't be shooting any takedowns. Neil Magny's got a good work rate. He's, efficient. He's known for hustling. He works hard, but skill-wise, man, I don't think he really got tested in that fight. And I hate to take away, I'm not saying take away, but, discredit that win he just got. But Li Jingliang, I think we all just jumped the gun because he beat Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos in China, knocked him out, finished him. I guess a little bit of recency bias there. And Magny, had been out for a while and was coming off the USADA thing. But, man, I think this fight's completely different. I think Rocco's streaking. Rocco's actually training down here with Douglas and Diego and Jucao and Assuncao, who's on the card, man. So I know he's been looking really good, getting that top-notch training. I think, stylistically, he can actually execute the calf kick game. Look at all his fights. He, calf kicked Jake Matthews. He calf kicked Sergio Moraes. He ended up finishing Ryan LaFleur with a high kick. But who else? Ramazan Ameev. I mean, he was 3 calf kicks and Ameev's leg was completely shot, man. So, I think Rocco Martin has the skills to come out here and get this win. I actually think that he's a more talented fighter than Magny, a more skilled fighter than Magny. all around. The where Magny can possibly win the fight is just by hustle, by tying him up, always throwing jabs, always moving. That's what Magny's good at. I just think that at some point, if he does that, Rocco Martin will either clip him with a vicious right hand or kick his calves to a point where he doesn't want to come in. So I'm actually going to take Rocco Martin for the upset here. I think he's going to crack the top 15 after this fight. And Neil Magny, a very tough guy. Like I said, good work rate. He's a good hustler, but I just think that Rocco Martin is very, very underrated, man. I think that this guy can fight with some of the guys in the top 15, like, Vicente and Nico, or, Randy Brown, these guys that are up there. So, I'm going to go with Rocco Martin for the win.
What's interesting about that Li Jingliang fight is that Li Jingliang really burnt me against Jake Matthews. And it was one of those things where it was like, oh, maybe it was an off night, this or that. But the reality is when Li Jingliang's not fighting in China, it ain't the same. Maybe it's the flight or who knows. But bottom line is that performance he had against Magny, again, not to take anything away from Magny, but it was just like there was zero resistance whatsoever. Lee threw one strike. That's very uncharacteristic. He landed 0 leg kicks, which if you want to beat Magny, you better go out there, land leg kicks on him. Lee did 0 of that, and then he gassed out after 2 minutes. So, yeah, if you gas out in 2 minutes against a guy that trains in Colorado, in the Rocky Mountains, in that elevation, obviously you're going to get picked apart for 3 straight rounds, and that's what happened. Never betting Li Jingliang out of China again. I'll just tell you that right now. But back to this matchup. Anthony Rocco Martin's come a long way since he moved up to 170 pounds. It's funny, Shaq, because back when he was at 55, you know what we used to say about him? We used to say, man, this guy's a world champion for 1 round, and then he gasses out. So it's like we had a really positive thing to say about him. We said he's got all the skill in the world for that 1 round, but he can't maintain it. But since he moved up to 170, he can knock guys out in the 3rd round. He can win decisions against Russians in Russia. He can submit black belts like he did to Jake Matthews. Dude, Rocco Martin's been putting it together. I guess, the somewhat area concern would be if he gets out-volumed here. The thing is he has the tools to beat Neil Magny, the calf kicks. I know that's something that we've repeated many times, but it can't be overstated, That's historically been one of Magny's biggest weaknesses. How do you chop down a 6'3" tree? You start down low. Lorenz Larkin showed the blueprint. Raphael Dos Anjos, I know it says an arm triangle, but he dropped him with a calf kick. And then Santiago Ponzinibbio, absolutely brutalized him. Li Jingliang didn't land a single kick. I think Anthony Rocco Martin is going to land at least 3 calf kicks in the first 30 seconds. If he does what he's supposed to do. And then from there, if he can get Neil Magny to back off a little bit, get it into one of those slow, methodical fights, start popping the jab, then keep mixing in that low kick. And when it comes time for Neil to shoot, I love Rocco Martin's submission attempts to sweeps. Like he can go for a guillotine, but he won't necessarily commit all the way. He can use it to sweep to get on top. The Kimura sweep, one of his go-tos. And his performance against Amiv, I think is very underrated, man. Amiv's a guy that you and I have had an immense amount of respect for a long time. You remember the wars the guy had in Russia. You remember him making his UFC debut at 205 pounds, right, man? It was at 205 against Alvi, wasn't it?
Well, Alvi missed weight.
Hey, so it's officially a light heavyweight bout. But look, the weight doesn't matter. I'm just saying, Ramazan Amiv is a serious badass, even though not too many people know who he is. So that win, I hold that in high regard, and the jury's still out on Magny, in my opinion, because that last fight didn't really tell me much, and this is the fight that's going to tell me a lot. And I'm going to go with Anthony Rocco Martin here for the upset. He's got to chop the tree. He's got to not get behind on points, and I think if he does what he's supposed to do, he's going to come out here and win. Now this one, here we go, man. Next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Aljamain, the Funkmaster Sterling. He's 18-3, and Cory Sandhagen is 12-1. Currently, they got Aljamain Sterling -110, and Cory Sandhagen is -110. So this is really interesting, man, because Aljamain Sterling, this guy, man, I know we've been harsh on him in the past. I know our old school fans remember when we cashed that +350 on Brian Caraway against him. But the thing about Aljamain Sterling is he's leveled up in a way where I truly respect this guy so much, because it's like, from what we thought of him before, like, you know, we used to call him the fraud master, and, you know, we like to be funny and stuff, but, like, there's no fraud master anymore. Like, this guy is one fight away from a title shot. He's really, really, truly paid his dues, and I got so much respect for that. But with Cory Sandhagen, ever since we saw his UFC debut, I was like, man, this guy might be future title challenger, future champ. You know, at first I was like, well, it's Austin Arnett. Let's relax a little bit. But then you saw the championship heart against Yuri Alcantara, and then the subsequent performances. So both these guys have been very impressive. So what I want to know, Shaq, is who's going to get the title shot versus the winner of Peter Yan and Jose Aldo?
Man, this is a great fight, number one contender match. A lot's on the line. Man, Aljamain's improved a lot. A very, very strong grappler. You know, his last two wins have been very impressive over Jimmy and Pedro Munoz. He just pretty much picked those guys apart at distance and landed them more volume strikes. Frustrated Jimmy Rivera to the point where he was spitting out his mouthpiece. And, you know, let's not forget what he did to Cody Stamann and Brett John's fight, man. Brett didn't look so good that night. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, man, his last four, man, have been very impressive, been brutal, man. He's actually been out there hurting guys. And then you got Cory Sandhagen, who from day one, we just saw the talent, the striking talent and the feints and the footwork that this guy had. And we were like, man, this guy, he might be the real deal. I mean, he beat John Lineker in his third UFC fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, John Lineker's a guy that beat John Dodson, who beat Chito Vera, who beat man, who else does Lineker beat?
What happened when Robbie Font fought Lineker in his third UFC fight?
You know what I'm saying? Like Rob Font, Kelleher. I mean, you know, that's a legit win for your third. And then the follow-up, you go out there and pretty much wipe out Raphael Assuncao by decision. You win some scrambles against him. You know, Cory Sandhagen is the real deal, man. So we know we got talent, you know, kind of like elite talent level versus a guy that's, you know, put in his work, you know, earned it, went through some losses. So I really like this matchup, man. So stylistically, man, I think Cory Sandhagen is clearly the better striker. You know, I feel like Aljamain Sterling has gotten a lot better, but at the same time, when we look at just stylistically and striking skills, Jimmy Rivera is very flat-footed and he only swings power hooks. So Aljamain, you know, can you know gauge better where he's going to be at. Pedro Munoz kind of very similar as well. Plotty, moves forward, eats a lot of shots. Cory Sandhagen, man, this guy, his feints, his footwork, his low kicks, just his rhythm, man, it's going to be tough to deal with, especially if he gets Aljamain moving backwards. You saw, like, you know, in that Pedro Munoz fight where Pedro in that there was moments where Pedro would walk him down and land a lot of front kicks, and Aljamain's ducking his head down real low, got a lot of weight on that front leg, and he's, you know, doing this. I just don't see that flying with a guy like Cory Sandhagen. Now, where Aljamain can win the fight is we saw in the Assuncao fight a couple of grappling exchanges, and Assuncao did slam him, and other guys have slammed him too. Mario Bautista slammed him. Assuncao picked him up a couple times. Did Yuri Alcantara didn't take him down, did he? He just like
but he almost subbed him.
Yeah, but you know he has had some moments on the ground, and he kind of likes to rely on his submission ability as well. I'll tell you what, man, he's one of the more talented brown belts I've seen. You know, I forget who his jiu-jitsu coach is. The Team Elevation guy, Elliot Marshall. Yeah. So I think that he's actually very talented on the ground. I do feel like Sterling has better wrestling though, you know, but I feel like that's the only way Sterling can win is if he holds on to dear life, you know, and it's possible, but I just see Cory Sandhagen coming better prepared this time in his fifth UFC fight. I see them addressing that small hole for this fight. And like I said, if this fight stays on the feet and Cory starts moving forward, I really think you could see him out there making Aljamain look silly, make him start shooting from far out, you know, and he's coming off an injury too as well, man. Cory Sandhagen is a guy that you need to be on point with, you know, a Assuncao who's known for his good point striking and his counter fighting. I mean, he looked real off against Cory Sandhagen. And Lineker fight, man, I thought Cory won the first 2 rounds clearly. He definitely did kind of slow down in the last one, but that was his third fight in the UFC, man. I think this kid might be something special, and I think he's gonna come out here and get the win by decision. I think it's gonna be a tough fight, no matter which way you look at it. But I think Cory Sandhagen is gonna capitalize when he has his moments on the feet and either get a knockdown, a wobble, and ride it to victory, man. So I'm gonna go with Cory Sandhagen.
Man, this is a tough one for me to call. Like, my gut since the fight got matched has been Cory Sandhagen. But when you go back and you watch both of their careers, I've just been so impressed with the improvements that Aljamain Sterling has made. And the fact that he's truly paid his dues, like I already said, man. I mean, he's taken his setbacks. He's gotten embarrassed, come back, clawed his way to this number one contender fight. So that has to count for something, because Sandhagen, he's truly as talented as we say. And I think even if he loses this fight, he's gonna challenge for a title one day. There is a chance it's first L time and that he might have to, pay his dues just like Aljamain has. The thing is, when you want to create a fighter, if you're going on the video game, you want to create a fighter that can beat a guy like Aljamain Sterling. What you want to do is, obviously, Aljamain beats a lot of these guys. He's very funky on the mat. We'll get to the grappling in a sec, but he uses his length really, really well. Well, one thing you'd want to do is you want to create a fighter that's longer and taller than a guy like Aljamain Sterling, because all these guys he's been beating, they're all 5'6" wrestlers, that like to throw hands. I mean, Pedro Munoz, he's a black belt, but 5'6" guys that like to brawl. Cory Sandhagen's a 5'11" bantamweight. Firstly, now I know Aljo's got 1 inch of reach, but guys, Cory's the longer man here. So you do that with the length, but then it's like, well, you saw Aljo's last fight against Pedro Munoz. That output was absolutely insane. So you need someone that can match the output. Well, how about the guy that you and I have been calling the volume king every single time he fights? That's the guy that can match the output. So the last part is the grappling. And this is where it might get tricky, and this is where we might be wrong, because it's like, yeah, I know Sandhagen only has 27% takedown defense and this and that, but he gets back up every single time. So his get-ups are very creative, and so are his scrambles, and sometimes he kind of relies on his ability to scramble and his funkiness and stuff like that. And it works against a lot of opponents. That's the only thing I'm curious about, if it's going to work here. Like, for example, like, even if they're not on the mat, even if they're clinched up against the fence and Aljo's kind of got his back, with the body lock, is Cory going to be able to easily escape that, or is it going to be, prolonged periods where he's pinned up against the fence? Like that, those are the spots that I'd be most worried about if I was to put money on Cory Sandhagen here. The thing is, aside from that, I see Cory having a lot of success in terms of landing a lot of body shots, which we saw Pedro Munoz start to do. He had that very stabbing front kick, even mixed in a couple hooks, and then you saw Aljo start to slow down a bit. The thing is, Pedro, we love him, tough as nails, great guy, great fighter, but we've kind of criticized his striking defense a bit at times. He's very, very hittable. So even though he was hurting Aljo was still able to land big combinations on him. I'm not entirely convinced he's able to do that here. So, man, I think it's a 50-50 fight. I think you got to take dog money on either side, but I'm going to go with my gut and lean with Cory Sandhagen here to get it done. Co-main event of the evening, also in the bantamweight division. We got the former champion, Cody Garbrandt, or as we like to say in Brazil, Shaq, Cody Garbrandt. He's 11-3, and Raphael Assuncao is 27-7. Currently, they got Cody Garbrandt minus 140. The comeback on Raphael Assuncao is plus 120. Shaq, you trying to lay down chalk on no chin here? I mean, you think this is a good matchup for him to get back on track?
Yeah, no chin, man. I'm glad to see him back. I heard he switched teams. I heard he's with Mark Henry and them now. We'll see if that changes things, man. Assuncao is one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. The hometown guy, but man, it's an interesting fight because both from that countdown show, man, you could tell both guys are desperate, man. I know Cody Garbrandt is coming off. He hasn't won a fight since UFC 207 since Ronda Rousey was last competed.
Let's just put it this way: Ronda Rousey has competed more recently than the last time Cody Garbrandt won a fight.
And then we follow up with the whole TJ thing where he put out the video, and man, I kind of feel like Cody Garbrandt's a case of when he became champ, man. It just went, he went off the deep end, man. he completely he beat Dominic Cruz at how old? Like what, 25, 6? Like fucking, you know what I'm saying? And things just went chaotic from there, man. The TJ for the second one was like, like I was like, bro, what are you doing? And then then you follow up with the Pedro fight, and it's like it got even worse, man. I guess switching camps is somewhat a step in the right direction. Maybe Mark Henry can deal with him. Assuncao, but under the radar, Assuncao, I don't want to say is in a similar spot, but I know in the back of his mind, man, he's got to be questioning like, man, can I still keep up with these young guys? Because I know Cory Sandhagen is possibly a number one contender, but sometimes when you're 30, what is he, 37, and has had a long career, and that loss, man, he kind of got out. He just got outskilled in a way that he's never been outskilled. Followed up by the Marlon Moraes fight in which he got finished. So, man, I kind of feel like deep down there, both these guys are down in the dumps a little bit. Stylistically, Cody Garbrandt, just his last three fights, I like that. I just don't even know what to say, man. It's like, dude, like I think he's got faster hands than Assuncao, and when he was himself, but like that guy's gone, man. I think the damage is probably more than likely already done. It's just that Assuncao, I don't, all this whole crap about him not having punching power, and or it doesn't knock anyone out. That's kind of ludicrous, man. I asked my boy Rob Fon about his Sun's about his power. Ask Marlon Moraes, from the first fight, man. He got wobbled in that first fight. What about Pedro Munoz, man? Assuncao can hit. He likes to counter. He likes to sit back, and he's known for winning a lot of decisions, man. But he can win a decision. Cody's not very competent, or at least hasn't shown any competence that he can think in a late round situation. Man, I'm gonna take Assuncao here. I don't know if there's any, from a betting perspective, if there's any more, I don't want to say value because it is dog money, but at the same time, his age does worry me. The fact that he likes to sit back, as where Munoz and those guys kind of jumped on him right away and, made Cody think crazy right off the bat. I think Munoz came out there and like jumped for a leg lock on him, and the TJ fights, went the way they did. But I'm going to go with the Suns out by decision, man. I think Cody Garbrandt's completely just unless Mark Henry really did something here in this time away from Alpha Male. But man, I just don't see what he's shown in the last couple of years to lead me to believe that he's gonna change. I heard he's got growing a beard. I heard he's trying to protect that chin of his. I heard he's trying to get a little extra padding. So we'll see what happens. But I'm gonna go with the Suns out for the win.
Yeah, look, stylistically, it's interesting because, like you said, Assuncao does like to sit back and counter, and that makes it intriguing because it's like, on one hand, let's say Cody Garbrandt does come out here with a new approach. So before I talk about that, the good thing Cody's got going for him is no matter what we say about his chin or anything else, he's got fast hands. His hands are fucking fast. That's one thing that cannot be disputed. Cody Garbrandt has some of the fastest hands at 135 pounds. But besides that, like you said, Assuncao likes to sit back and counter. So as far as the approach of Garbrandt, because we've seen two different styles from him. We've seen the wild man that comes out there and, against Pedro Munoz when the initial knockdown, then he gets back up and he just starts charging him recklessly. He's like, Cody, wait, Cody, no, Cody, please. Even the second TJ.
Yeah, real quick though, like go back to like UFC Embedded or something and watch Danny Castillo. He's like, Cody, no, Cody, wait, Cody, get out of there, Cody, no. And then like it's over, and then he's just like, oh, it's so fucking funny.
Yeah, man. And then like even the second TJ fight when he just throws 3 sloppy overhand rights in a row, like it's like when he gets clipped, man, he gets sloppy. But yeah, anyways, so if he wants to come out here and do the chaotic approach, my whole thing is, yeah, he can maybe catch Assuncao, but Assuncao is a really good counter fighter. So, you know, if Cody wants to come out here winging big bombs, you know, and with no respect, Assuncao is known for his counters. Now, on the flip side, if Cody wants to play a safe, methodical game, that's what Assuncao's been doing for the last 10 years. Like, he loves those close decisions. So I feel like aside from a knockout, which is possible, Cody's got really, really fast hands like we mentioned. This kind of does favor Assuncao because, again, the counters will be open if Cody blitzes him, but the sit-back, methodical, I go, you go style is what Assuncao's mastered for the last however long. And, you know, I think he's going to be throwing more leg kicks here because the Pedro Munoz fight, you know, people like to just talk about the chin of Garbrandt, but Munoz was actually chopping him down with calf kicks. He completely fucked his leg up to a point where maybe that's why Cody Garbrandt went on that suicide mission, because he felt like, hey, I'm not going to be able to answer the bell between rounds. I better take him out right now. And then he ended up being the one that got taken out. He doesn't have the durability he once did. So, yeah, I do see it being a close fight, but I think it's a dog or pass situation. And I'm going to go with ATL zone, Raphael Assuncao, to get this one done. Main event of the evening for the 145-pound women's title. We got the champion and the GOAT, Amanda the Lioness Nunes. She's 19-4. And Felicia Spencer is 8-1. Currently, they got Amanda Nunes minus 600. The comeback on Felicia Spencer is plus 450. Shaq, I low-key lined Nunes minus 1,000. So is there value here on Nunes at minus 600? Or am I sleeping on Spencer? You think she's going to come out here and get this upset?
Yeah. Spencer's in trouble, man. Spencer's in trouble. Yeah, there probably is value on that minus 650, huh? You know, like I just, you know, she's gonna get finished here. You know, I think she's tough. She proved herself in that Cyborg fight. She ate all the Cyborg shots, but you know, Felicia is big, and we have seen Nunes kind of tire out at times, but you know, just stand up wise, man, this is a complete mismatch and a half. Like kind of similar with I said, Caceres and Herbert, but this like is for real. Like if she stands with Nunes for like any more than a minute, 2 minutes, like this is gonna get real ugly. So yeah, you got to go with Nunes here. I say by finish within 3 rounds. You know.
You know, this low-key reminds me of Nunes versus Rousey. Everyone's saying that the big shot that, you know, Felicia has to win is on the mat with her black belt. You know, people conveniently ignore the fact that Amanda Nunes is also a serious black belt, won her belt by submitting the then champion Miesha Tate. Also knocked down Sarah McMahon, submitted her too. I think people sleep on the black belt of Amanda Nunes a bit. I know people are going to refer back to that, you know, Jermaine Durandamy fight, but like I don't even think Spencer's going to make it to the championship rounds. Not to mention the fact that when you compare the two Jermaine Durandamy fights, because you guys know they fought twice, the first time Amanda took her down, got on top, and the fight was over shortly after. So Jermaine Durandamy closed the gap to an extent. You know, she even publicly said that my favorite training day is no-gi day. So I know Jermaine's been putting in work, but this is different because we're dealing with the black belt here. But on the feet, it's a mismatch to a point where, you know, she's gonna get teed off on at will, but like she doesn't really even not necessarily deserve to be in the spot because she's the only fighter in that division. But like when you earn a title shot by being Zara Fern, which probably half of you guys have never heard of. I never heard of her, right? No, except the 2 fights we've seen, or Megan Anderson. It's like, yeah, this is like bringing a lamb to the slaughter. And I think it's going to be a first round knockout, man. I think Amanda Nunes is going to come out here, tee off on her, calf kicks, the boxing, pop her head back, stuff every takedown attempt, go out there, put her away in the first round. So I'm going with Amanda the Lioness Nunes, Shaq. Now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So what is the fight to watch for UFC 250?
My fight to watch is going to be Neil Magny versus Anthony Rocco Martin, man. I think Neil Magny, I know he's coming off a nice win against Li Jingliang, but I want to see more of him, man. I want to see another 15 minutes. And Rocco Martin, this is finally his big opportunity, man. Like, he didn't get the Damian Maya win, but hey, at least he got one judge to give him a draw on one card. Right? Isn't that right? Majority decision. So yeah, this is another opportunity. I mean, this guy was supposed to fight David Zawada, so this is a big step up in name value. And if he can get this win, he will finally get that ranking next to his name. So that's my fight to watch.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say about Anthony Rocco is, in that Maya fight, even though, he clearly lost the first 2 rounds, but who else is going out there and, trying submission attempts on a guy like Damian Maya? So you got to give Anthony Rocco a lot of respect for that. But, man, my fight to watch, and I appreciate you not mentioning this fight, is Cory Sandhagen versus Aljamain Sterling. Look, the winner of this fight, regardless of who it is going to emerge the number 1 contender, and they're going to get to fight the winner of Peter Yan versus Jose Aldo for the undisputed bantamweight title, and it's going to be bright skies for the winner. And even the guy who takes an L in this matchup, I think they're going to be able to dust themselves off, come back, and potentially get back to the same position they're in, because these guys are so high level and they're going to be around the top of this division for a while. So Cory Sandhagen versus Aljamain Sterling is my fight to watch. Well, Shaq, who is your fighter to watch for UFC 250?
My fighter to watch is going to be Cody No Love Garbrandt, man. Look, this would be like an epic fall, man. Like, I know we just saw a big fall last weekend with Tyron Woodley, but this would be like, if he comes out here and gets stopped again, like, should he hang him up? What do you think?
I mean, so low key, and I wasn't even supposed to talk about this, but I will anyways. I heard the people behind him wanted him to take like easier fights, and he was like, "No, I have to fight the top 5 guys." So even like his own management's like, "Fine, Cody, you take the wheel, buddy."
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And that's never a good sign, Shaq.
Yeah, I mean, if they can, why not take a fight against like
Eddie Wineland?
Eddie Wineland or something, but he'll have to take less money. But yeah, I think he's my fighter to watch, man. If he wins, that'll be a good story. I'm sure, they'll cry and, they'll do the whole bit. But, I think if he loses, man, that will just be another a sad situation. And I think that he will have to retire. Or, there's no reason if he takes another stiffening KO loss or just like gets absolutely blown out the water for 15 minutes and wiped out. Dana White would have to have a serious talk with him. So, I wish him the best of luck. If he gets to win, that'll be good for him. But if he loses, they need to start talking retirement.
And for me, my fighter to watch is Sugar Sean O'Malley. Look, I know he's a 5-1 favorite, but a lot of people have been discrediting this guy, saying, don't like how he's talking, even though he said he wants steps up in competition so he can work his way to a title, which, like, do you want him to say he wants shittier competition? Like, the guy, he's very, very exciting. I like his striking style. I like his mindset, and I'm very curious to see how he performs. Because, look, even though he's a 5-1 favorite, you remember when Cody Garbrandt was a 5-1 favorite against Henry Briones and he stunk up the whole place, and I bet on him inside the distance, and that's his one UFC win he didn't finish. So, like, just because he's a big favorite doesn't mean he's going to come out here and show out. But when you do show out in a spot like this, pay-per-view opener, all eyes on you, I feel like this is going to elevate him to that next level. So Sean O'Malley is my fighter to watch, Shaq. Well, Shaq, it's going down this Saturday in Vegas, UFC 250. They can get our plays at bestfightpicks.com. Use the promo code Shaq50 for 50% off Shaq's bets. Use my promo code Dan25 for 25% off mine, or use our combined promo code 2020 for 20% off the VIPs at bestfightpicks.com. You can follow Shaq at MMA Genius 05 or ShaqBFP on IG. You can follow me at Best Fight Picks, Best Fight Picks Official on IG, or follow the podcast too at Half the Battle Pod on IG or Half the Battle HQ on Twitter. Sincerely appreciate all your support. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, all the places where we are available. We're going to be back next week, and about the fan Q&A, I found a solution. We should just do a separate show for the fan Q&A. Just sit down for an hour, answer all the fans' questions, and shoot the shit. We really look forward to doing that soon. We'll just keep Keep an eye out. We'll let you know when we get down to that. Thank you guys so much for your support. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.